Hi everyone, today I'm joined by Keeran Eshwarlall, a singer whose voice carries both emotion and intention. Beyond the music, Keeran represents authenticity, growth, and purpose. In this live chat, we're diving into his journey, his creative process, and the deeper meaning behind his sound. Keeran, welcome. It's great to have you with us. How are you, Keeran?
I'm good. Thank you very much for asking, and thanks for inviting me to be on your platform. It's the first
Uh,
time I'm doing something like this.
Thanks,
Very much
man,
looking
and
forward.
thanks for and sorry to put you all the technical trouble.
Yeah, we had endless grief. Oof, if only the audience knows. I'm really, really sorry. I must apologize. The problem was on my side, and this is the reason why we are delayed in this. And I hope that we are able to make up for it in some way or the other.
And no worries, no worries. It's an honor to have you. And yeah, let's get the ball rolling. Your
Mm.
voice has a very distinct emotional quality. When did you first realize singing was more than just a hobby for you?
To answer that question, I need to go back to the beginning of how the music started for me. See, up to the age of 16, which was back in the day, we had standards, standard one, two, metric. So I was in standard eight in the year 1990.
Wow.
And what happened was, up to that point, I actually had no direction in life. I didn't know what I wanted to do as, by standard eight, you get to choose your courses and then you get to align yourself with the direction you want to head in your life, what you want to study after school and that kind of thing. So you work towards that. So I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I was heavily influenced by what used to happen on the 80s television, uh, on the 80s television programs. I'm sorry, I'm just gonna mute my phone so
Sure, no
that I
problem.
don't end up with people trying to call me while you're busy here.
Sure, no
So
problem.
I'm an 80s kid. So on 80s television, we had a lot of very influential television programs like MacGyver and Hunter, the A Team, and Airwolf and Knight Rider, and that kind of thing. So I always aspired towards something that in law enforcement, like being a detective. It was cool to see it on TV. So I thought about being a detective, but I was also like very introverted in school. So I was not the outgoing type. I wouldn't be the one going to the bioscope on last day of school with all the other friends. I would just go straight home. I'd lock myself in my garage, and I had all the walls in the garage had paintings. I used to draw and paint a lot. So art like drawing art and fine arts was the way I would escape from the world. Um, Music was a total accidental discovery, and I say accidental because around about August in 1990, the area that we were living in was still a fairly new suburb. So everybody needed to get to know each other. And then the community got together and they decided, okay, all the men will then go and play darts and have a football club and a volleyball club. And the older gents wanted to learn music. So at that time, there used to be in Parliament, there was a department called House of Delegates, which was specifically for Indians. So House of Delegates then started sending out music teachers to go and teach Indian music. So our group of old Balis decided, okay, we're gonna go and learn music. So my dad was one of those people, and he went out and he uh, attempted to learn. They came home one day with a loaned harmonium, put it on the terrace outside, and he was busy trying to practice away. So I'm sitting in the dining room and I'm doing my homework and I'm getting very annoyed by what I'm listening to because this is just not making sense. So in my own way, I started scribbling on my book and working out what he's trying to do. But in my ear, I could somehow, whilst not understanding this, but somehow figured out he's missing something in the notation that he was playing. So I got very annoyed and I went out to him. And remember, my dad was a school principal from the
Okay.
corporal punishment days. So there was no sparing the rod here. And there was discipline every single step of the way. There was discipline. How you spoke, how you walked, how you dressed, everything was discipline in my house, right? So I went to the terrace and I was this standard eight rebellious teenager now, right? And I went there and I said, "What are you doing?" And then said to me, "Excuse me." Asked him, "What are you doing?" He said, "I'm practicing." I said, "You're not practicing. You're making noise." And then he says to me, "Oh, come here, come here." Right now, the fear of God starts to creep in, because when he says, "Come here," you better oblige,
Mm.
because he was Hitler in school, he was Hitler at home too, right?
Okay.
So he says, "Come in. You think you can do this better?" And the arrogant little me, the arrogant teenager in me said, "Yes, I can." So he said, "Okay, show me." And he had his book on top of the harmonium, and on the book there was written the notes Saregama Padanisha. The way the notation would have been given. And then on the harmonium keys, it was also marked Saregama Padanisha. So for me, it was just a logical color follow. You see the S, you play the S. You see the R, you play the R. That kind of thing. And he said to me, "Play." And so I looked at him and I said, "So does that mean this? And does that mean this? And does that mean this?" And he says, "Yeah." And I said, "Oh, okay. Then how hard can it be?" You know. And then he started playing. So when I started playing, it was basically. And I thought, well, that's not hard because I followed what was there. So his exercise was. So the first lesson was the Maha Mantra, which is Hare Rama. So Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. So that was his first lesson. So I put my fingers on the harmonium the first time, and the first time I played it right. I didn't even know that these were called keys. I was referring to them as buttons. So is this button for that? And he says, yeah. And then that's the accident that happened where I discovered that I was musical as well as artistic in terms of, you know, of of being able to draw and paint. So from that changed my entire life. That moment actually changed my entire life because thereafter, in that first hour, I got so engrossed in this new discovery that within the first hour, I learned my first tune. And at that time, it was a hit movie that was out called Tesab. And it's a very famous song everybody knows.
Yeah.
So that was the first tune I learned on my own within the first hour of discovering that I was musical. And thereafter, it was just no looking back. It was after that, it was every day go to work, go to school, come home, do homework. After homework, sit down with the harmonium and learn new things. So I was teaching myself, not
Mhm.
realizing that I'm actually have an ear for this, and I wasn't learning formally by using notes or anything else. So that's basically how my journey started. You know.
Yeah.
So uh, could you ask your question again so we can get to where I should actually be answering it?
And that's perfect. Actually, before I continue with my questions, there's one comment question for you here. This is from Chitin Rishika. She asks, Dear Kiran, I have listened to your music for a decade now. At what age were you inspired into music? What
Well,
age?
that was the age of 16 when I first, when I
Oh,
first started. Before that, I had absolutely no inclination to music. I had no preference for any kind of music. I was not,
okay.
in my peer group, it was all Western music that they used to listen to.
Okay.
I never used to even listen to music, to be honest to you, because for
Oh,
me, it was just, uh, it was never something that interested me. Art did. So a lot of drawing, painting, that kind of thing, sculpture, making things, building things, by hand. Just to take you back to my little earlier childhood, was when I say make things by hand. Now it's popular. Those wireframe cars that kids push around.
hmm.
That was my specialty. So my neighborhood friends would all come with bundles of wire and say, "Right, build me a BMW, or build me a Bucky or whatever it is." And I would sit there and we'd sit with the wire and the pliers and we'll start binding this thing and making up the shape and whatnot. And we used to use that time the cans that we call now, Coke in a can or whatever it is. We used to call them groovy cans back then, right? And we used to use that for the wheels. So that was my early childhood in terms of of art and sculpture and building things. So that's basically where I came from. And then music, like I said, to answer the lady's question there, it was a totally accidental discovery, and it was the age of 16.
All right. Who were the earliest musical influences that shaped your sound, and how do they still show up in your music today?
Right. Having started accidentally,
Hmm.
there is one artist that stands out and will stand out the rest of my life. Um, and this will shock a lot of people actually, because he's not an international artist. He's not
Oh,
a big superstar. He's not a big rock star. He's not a big selling artist as such. But for the local context, I respect his work. I admire his work, and he has been the sole person to have directly influenced me to advance in my music. And I had never, at that point in time, I had never met him for a good 5 years since I started playing music. The first time I ever met him was 5 years after I started playing music. So the gentleman's name is Tom Bhagwandi, and he's from Durban, well-known chutney singer, and he had an album called Chutneys by Tom Bhagwandi. But prior to that becoming an officially released album, we had a recording at somebody's house. Back in the day, it used to be on cassette. So my brother-in-law actually came across this cassette of a recording of Tom Bhagwani at somebody's house in Petermaritzburg. That tape came to us, and we went and made copies of the tape, and I ended up with a copy of the tape. So as to put that in our little tape recorder at home, and the harmonium, the lone harmonium that we had, I didn't have my own harmonium at the time. The lone harmonium that we had the exact same tone as what he was singing on his cassette. So whenever I used to sit down, I used to try and copy exactly what he's playing and what he's singing, and and that's how I learned all of his songs on the scales that he normally sings. Um, that then led me to branch out into
hmm.
experimenting with keyboards. And then when I came across a keyboard, eventually I started messing around with a keyboard, and eventually ended up getting a holiday job as a school student, getting a holiday job working for Casio keyboards as a demonstrator. So the earliest influence would be Mr. Tom Bhagwandin. And as I progressed with the chutney style of music and then learning a few bhajans and stuff like that there, and then discovered my current guru, Padma Shri Anup Jalota,
Okay.
who's who's been in my life for the last 35 years almost now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Here's
So
another
those are the
comment.
two people. They
Sorry?
they their influence still stands in my life up till today.
Okay. Awesome. All right. This one is from Nitesh Ram Prasad 4307. Dear Kiran, tell us what music you listened to in your teenage years, more especially Western music, if I'm
Very
saying that
interesting
right.
question. Very
Yeah.
interesting question. Because remember, I said I had no direction, right? So I had no
Okay.
musical preference. I was not attracted to any kind of live music, like Saturday night weddings, bands, that kind of thing. Never interested me at all. Wherever I went, believe it or not, as a kid, prior to discovering the musical side of me, I used to carry a book and a pen. And even if I went to somebody's wedding or wedding eve, Saturday night Johol, whatever, all the kids will be playing. I'll be sitting one side with a book and I'll be drawing stuff in my book.
Mhm.
That's how I was. So very interesting question you asked the kind of Western music, because the moment I started playing harmonium, I then started getting attracted to music instruments that accompany. Like in a group now you have harmonium, you have a tabla, you have a dolak, nal. So all the drums, I started getting attracted to that, and then all the supporting instruments like mandolin, guitar, violin, that kind of thing. So the easiest thing and the most accessible thing was a guitar. So then I built up an interest in wanting to learn to play the guitar as well. Synonymous, I mean, at the same time with the uh, with learning the harmonium. also teaching myself. And then, interestingly, now to answer the question, what kind of Western music influenced me? It was actually the album La Bamba, the movie La Bamba. And the movie did everything for me because it not only um, contributed to my love for guitar, it also made me understand the history of how guitar became such a massive industry on its own, aside from being an industry of instruments being sold, but an industry as in terms of shaping the musical industry. There is no recording on the planet can be done that where guitar is not included. So La Bamba did it for me. And then what happened is because of my attraction to that style of music, the La Bamba album is the one reason, the one and only reason why I wanted to ever learn to play the guitar. I wanted to learn that song particularly. And in order to learn that song, I had to learn the whole guitar. And I was so driven that I actually did it myself. You know,
Wow.
so I learned to play guitar and follow that album. And then from then on, the Western music that attracted me was all guitar related. So it was again another local album called the Raiders. There's a band called the Raiders back in the day, and they specialized in instrumental dance music. So their album, the Raiders Go Latin, was one of my favorites. Still one of my favorites to today. Lambaba is still another one of my favorites. Any songs that are ballad style where you can play a guitar too. That's the kind of Western music that attracts me nowadays. And I see a lot of Bollywood songs now. That's also following the same kind of trend as well.
Nice. Many artists struggle to stay authentic while evolving. How do you balance growth while staying true to yourself?
Sorry, the last part there. How do I balance?
Sure. How do you balance growth with staying true to yourself?
Um, Balance comes generally. Growth is what can I say? Growth is never ending. There's no end to learning, right? But balancing growth can only happen if you have a solid foundation.
Mm,
One needs to have a solid foundation in your music. That way, you are able to use the cliche. It's like riding a bike. So even if you pick up your instrument after 10 years, you may be a little rusty, but you never forget how to play. You know, but thereafter, once you have a solid foundation, the growth can be exponential in any direction you want. You either can learn something well, or you can learn something. You can change your style. You can learn new things. You can build on yourself. But that balance has to come from having a solid foundation. Thereafter, you would look at try to stay current or keeping up with trends. But when you look at music, music is cyclic. There's always a style of music that comes into fashion, so to speak, now, and then it goes out of fashion, and then years later it comes back again. Everyone is like all hip and happy about it. Uh, for example, Bollywood music. Every single, almost every single song that came out in the last 2 to 3 years in the Bollywood music industry are recycled old songs. You know this, you know. They are all
mhm.
recycled old songs. So, like I said, so that alone tells you music is cycling. So those artists obviously had to go back to a song that was created and has been a classic. And the only way that song became a classic is because that the artists that created those songs had a solid base. The new artists, unfortunately, are just copying, modifying, and presenting it as their own. But they sometimes they don't even understand the value of what they have changed because they don't understand its roots. So it's very important. The other thing is to strive to achieve higher goals is something that has to come from inside you. And one of the most important driving factors is to ensure that you keep yourself in check all the time. Do not ever act as if you know everything there is to know. There's always someone out there. Even though I'm a performing artist for 35 years now, this is my 36th year. When I sit up
Okay.
on stage and I'm performing, there's always someone in the audience that may not have the ability to perform in front of people, but they have more knowledge than me.
Hmm,
That's sitting there. So that's something we have to also look at and respect. So this is the way we help make sure that we keep our balance.
awesome. Can you walk us through your creative process? Does the melody come first, or do the lyrics lead the way?
You see, in terms of creative process, I don't do a lot of compositions in a hurry. I don't. And the reason is because there's no calling for it here in South Africa. There's originality. Like this morning, I was going through my Facebook and I saw an article by Hussein Bali, the great Hussein Bali is also a local musician and singer and composer. And he's been coming under scrutiny now for not singing anything original. Like he used to compose a lot of original stuff before. And in his argument, he says, "Who appreciates anything original in South Africa? People only appreciate work that others have done, and we have to now copy and present as our own." So
Hmm, that's it.
the problem is when it comes to like, okay, to answer your question,
Mhm.
I can only work with what I'm given. So if somebody gives me a lyrics and says to me, "Can you compose a tune for this?" Now, I remember in because we're Indian musicians in the Indian music industry, and our roots are basically in India. So we're thinking in terms of Indian musicology when it comes to laying out a song or music for a song. Now, what happens is in the Western on the Western side, they compose a lot of music before, and then they decide, let's write some words to fit that. But in our fraternity, the poetry is already done, and then they give it to you and they say to you, right now, can you put music to this? So the difference between Western music and our music, Hindustani music, is that Western music is quite clinical. It's there, it's written, you follow it, you play it, you go home, you sleep.
Yeah.
Indian musicology, unfortunately, is driven by a couple of factors. One is the poetry, and the poetry itself is driven by emotion. Now, the fortunate part about Indian musicology is we are able to capture and emote the emotions. We are able to bring it out by use of rags, right? So when
Mhm.
it comes to composing, there are a couple of elements. Tonal quality of voice is the last thing they look at, right? First, we have the lyrics. Set to the lyrics, we have to look at the tal that we want, or the beat that we want, the beat structure that we want the song to be. If it's a romantic song, you're not going to have upbeat, doof, doof, doof kind of beat. You're not going to choose that kind of beat. You choose a ballad style beat, right? So you got lyrics, you got the beat, then you've got the rag to go with. Now that rag obviously will determine the pitch, whether it's a low pitch song to bring out, or whether it's going to be a high pitch for an upbeat, energetic song. So you got that to worry about. Then we've got finally the tonal quality of the voice. So if you listen to a song by Rahat Fateh Ali Khan, for example, in that composition, the music director chose that tonal quality of voice to bring out that kind of song because the high pitch nature of his song. And no matter and you'll find like people say generally if it's romantic, it should be low pitch, mid to low pitch, that kind of thing. But I've seen Rahat Fateh Ali Khan do romantic songs in extreme high pitch. Everybody loves it. So you don't have to conform. And that's where people break out of the shell and they decide, okay, let's do this at a high pitch and see what happens. Right? So in my approach, I've been actually approached a couple of years ago. I was given a set of lyrics, and the person came to me and said, I have this bhajan, and so she sang it, her interpretation of how those words should work. Now, what she had done was she had taken a film song that was popular and wrote the bhajan lyrics to go with it. And so she started singing. And her version was, you'll remember the song, सागर किनारे दिल ये पुकारे तू जो नहीं तू मेरा कोई नहीं है. Right? So you remember the song. So now she wrote the words. सुन ले ओ कान्हा कृष्ण कन्हैया. And I said, stop, 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 stop. You've taken the time to compose such beautiful lyrics and compose something that is the world has never heard before. So why are you taking it and putting it to music that somebody else already created? Originality is the best way to go. And being bhajans is devotional poetry, and devotional poetry will live forever. So
True.
create something that's different. So she says, okay, you create it. Now this is where I answer your question. Does the music come first? Does the lyrics come first? In this case, in our case, like I said, in Hindustani music, generally the words are written and the music is put afterward. So
Okay.
I put my own tune to it, and I actually came up with my own tune to demonstrate to you everything about the selection of the beat and the rag and the emotion that you will bring out in it. I don't know if this is clear enough.
Yeah, I can hear the beat. Yeah.
You can use it, right? So remember, it went from Sagar Kinare tune to now the
Yeah.
film. So this is the new tune for the song.
Okay.
सुन ले ओ कान्हा सुन ले ओ कान्हा सुन ले ओ कान्हा सुन ले ओ कान्हा सबसे प्यारा रस रचैया सुन ले ओ कान्हा सबसे प्यारा रस रचैया सुन ले ओ कान्हा सुन ले ओ कान्हा सुन ले ओ कान्हा. So see from what to what. So it went from being something that would have just gotten lost because it's a familiar tune that everybody knows, nobody would remember the words. In this way, with a brand new lyrics and brand new tune, it's going to be something that will last forever. So
Awesome.
that answers your question.
Yeah. All right. Then again, a question from Nitesh Prasad 4307. Hi, sorry, another question. On many occasions, I saw you playing a beautifully sounding organ with a mouthpiece. Can you tell us what it's called?
Oh, right. Um, that instrument, well,
Mhm.
a bit confusing the way they're asking it. The beautiful sounding organ with a mouthpiece.
Yeah,
Okay,
but
the
yeah.
one with the mouthpiece is it's called a melodica. So basically,
Okay.
it's a keyboard instrument about that long. You normally
Oh,
uh, blow air into it, and you play the keys. Um, but they also have an attachment like a little mini vacuum pipe that you can actually put in your mouth, and you can blow through that. Just to give you a little bit of a view, because when you're playing this thing, if you play with the direct mouthpiece, you can't really see the keys in front of you. But with the extended pipe, you'll be able to see. It's called a melodica. They're quite easily available now. The other
oh,
wind instrument that I play is called well, what we normally call mouth organ, which is harmonica, the little one.
oh yes.
So those are the two that I play. Yeah, we used to use these in shows before. When I had a bigger group, we had like 10 musicians in the group that time, and
Mhm.
we used to do a lot of Bollywood songs and stuff like that. So I used to use that instrument quite a lot before. I hardly use it nowadays, to be honest with you.
Awesome. Which song in your catalog is the most personal to you, and why does it still resonate so deeply?
You know, this is not the easiest question for any musician or singer to answer because I doubt very much in this world there's a single musician or singer that has only one song, you know, that resonates well with them. In my case, because I sing a range of songs, I sing bhajans, I sing ghazals, I sing golden oldies, I sing film songs, I sing chutney, I sing, folk songs. In each of those genres, I have a favorite, you know.
Okay.
So if it's chutney, I got my Tom Burgundy style songs, which I love. Uh, I can give you a song from there. If it's bhajans, then Maish Devta Ram. So it's a Ram bhajan. It will be a Ram bhajan. And honestly, the song that resonates with you can actually change because you can be the one that you first fell in love with, and you sing it all the time until something new is created, and then you completely fall in love with that song. So in my case, that's actually what happened because in the past, if you asked me to sing a Ram bhajan, I would sing to you. तन के तंबूरे में दो सांसों के तार बोले जय सिया राम जय राधे श्याम श्याम जय सिया राम जय राधे श्याम श्याम. Nowadays, if you ask me to sing my favorite Ram bhajan, it's this one. राम को देख कर श्री जनक नंदनी बाग में वो खरी रह गई. राम देखे सिया राम को चरखिया लड़ी रह गई. राम को देख कर. See, so if it were Bollywood, uh,
Mhm.
if you ask me to pick a Bollywood favorite song, it'll have to be something under Mohammed Rafi or Kishore Kumar kind of,
Oh, of
you know,
course.
uh,
Oh, the
that
legends.
preference. Yeah, so different genres would I have a favorite for each one. It's very
Mm.
hard for me to tell you pick one.
Oh,
It's very difficult, honestly.
all right. Yeah. Live performances often bring out a different energy. What does being on stage give you that the studio can't?
Stage performance is key. To be honest
Mhm.
with you, stage performance is absolute king. Um, in the studio, you need a lot of discipline.
Mm.
Um, the studio teaches you a lot of discipline. There's a lot has to do with timing. Not timing, the two aspects. Timing as musically timing, and the other is in terms of pitching up on time and how long it takes to do things in a studio. Because almost every minute in a studio equates to money. Whereas when you're on stage, you have the freedom. You can talk to the audience. You can feed off the audience energy. And most of the time, the thrill of being on stage is actually something you can't write down, you can't express any other way. It's a feeling that you get when you see the audience appreciating your work, the applause, the singing along, the clapping along, the interaction that you have with the audience. That energy that they give off is what we as artists feed off. So it's important that when you go to watch a group live, that you support them by clapping and singing along and encouraging. So you don't get that in the studio. You don't get that live interaction in the studio. Yes, there have been live recordings we've done, where as we were performing, we got recorded. Those albums where, went out and people enjoyed it. But the definite difference between a live performance and the studios, live is king. I prefer live any day.
Of course. Um, okay, the music industry can be tough mentally and emotionally. What keeps you grounded during challenging moments?
Well, the one thing my Guruji said to me, and when we first met over 35 years ago, he said to me, Kiran, stay humble, we
Hmm.
last forever. And when I say there's so many one things that he said to me as we went along, and I started writing them down because it was very profound. And a lot of people will say these things, but you don't take notice until somebody important, actually, that's important to you, says these things, and you start to realize, hang on, there's a deeper meaning to what they are saying. So one of the things he said to me is, "Stay humble, you last forever." The other is, never fear another musician. Do not fear another musician. If you're built to perform at a certain place and another musician seemingly more senior to you or more experienced to you or more famous than you or anything like that is also built to perform in the same place, do not fear. Because at the end of the day, he who is superior to you was once where you were. So he had to obviously build himself up to get to where he is now. He obviously worked hard and he got to where he is. So you are still working hard and you're still getting there. So whoever's there to listen to you will listen to you and appreciate you. And over the years, when you build up, you will get to his level eventually. So don't fear. When you go out there, don't say, "Oh my God, how am I going to perform? This person is performing there and they know so much, and audience is going to hate me and they're going to love him and that kind of thing." No, you go out and do the best that you can do. So he's and his words were so simple. He said, "Do your best, leave the rest." You know, and that's basically how I just stay grounded by ensuring that you keep your life simple. Don't complicate it with outside forces that are penetrating your head and giving you negative vibes about yourself. You know, always be positive about what it is you can do, and be firm about your convictions. You know, when you go out there, you know that you can do your best in a certain genre. Stick to that. Do the best of what you do, and then the rest will take care of itself.
True. How will your South African cultural background influence your music, storytelling, or performance style?
Well, in South Africa, we I can't speak for the whole of South Africa because we're based in Durban. So the Durban audience is actually a good audience too. It's a very challenging audience, I can tell you that, because we have a strong contingent of the audience that are steeped in, in chutney and Nagara music, which is the only thing that they seem to appreciate. So if you give them good quality, other kind alternative music, it's not going to go down well with them. And this is why I say to a lot of my overseas artist friends before they come to perform here, pick where you want to go because it's Durban is a very difficult audience to please. You know, so if you want to come here, you need to make sure you do your homework before. Now, us here, our society has helped us. When you live in this kind of difficulty, you learn to survive in this kind of difficulty. You also learn how to adapt and be able to present what it is that will be well received all the time. Instead of insisting on, "Oh, I'm going to sing these slow, deadbeat songs," and the moment somebody hears your name, it's, "Oh, man, that guy, man, he makes you sleep," you know. So instead of becoming famous for that guy that makes you sleep, you keep up with the trends. And sometimes you have to step out of your comfort zone. Like I started off uh, singing chutney because of my influence with Tom Bhagwandi. And I played in chutney groups for the first good five to 10 years of my life. And eventually, when I stopped with chutney and got into bhajans, ghazals, and oldies and that kind of thing, I stopped chutney completely for the last 25 years. And believe it or not, uh, last year, in the middle of last year, I cut my first album after 35 years uh, because of demand. People were saying, "You know what, come on, do a recording, do a recording, do a recording." So I've done a recording. And then in the recording, we didn't plan what we were going to do. We just rocked up at the studio and said, "Right, okay, what are we going to do?" So I did some bhajans, I did ghazals, I did a Fulmi song, we did a oldie, we did a Kawali song. And then one of my musicians, Divyo Panchu, he said, "Hey, sing one Chutney song." Now, he normally says this to irritate me, but when he said, "Hey, sing one Chutney song," I looked at him and I said, "Okay." And he said, "What?" And I said, "Yeah, okay, let's do it." And we did it. So I recorded the Chutney song, and it was my late mom's favorite song of Tom Gandhi. So I did record it, and look, it's going to be available in a couple of weeks, and I'm distributing the music free of charge. Actually, we're not cutting CDs or anything like that. And CDs are dead and gone now. Everything's USB and everything is online. And also, what happens is when you do an album of 10 songs, not all 10 appeal to everybody. People only like
Mm,
track number three and four and five.
mm.
So because of that, whoever wants three, four, and five, you can have three, four, and five. You can listen to. You don't have to worry about the rest of the album. The other people that like the other songs will request for the other songs. So it's going to be just distributed to everybody free of charge as my gift back to everybody for supporting me over the years.
Awesome. Is there a collaboration, local or international, that would be a dream project for you? And what excites you about it?
Yes, it's going to happen soon. Uh,
Hmm.
it took a good 20 years to put together. Um, but I get asked this question all the time by my Guruji, Kiran, why have we not done a show together in South Africa, in your home country? I've traveled and performed with Anupji for a good 6 years when I lived in England. Um, and we went around Europe. I accompanied him on guitar, I accompanied him on santoor, I've accompanied him on harmonium. We sang together. We did a lot of programs together, except in South Africa. And the reason for that is there are a lot of politics in the industry in South Africa. There are a lot of promoters who believe that they should not be contaminating uh, an overseas act by including anybody who's local. But the sad irony is when I lived in England, because I was from South Africa, living in England, I was an international artist, you know, performing with another international artist from India. So we often in South Africa, we have to leave our territory to go elsewhere to get the respect that we deserve. And sadly, it hasn't happened for me here in South Africa. When Anupji came here, I have accompanied him as a backing artist, but not as a singing artist. You know, so in time to come, there will be a show, Anup Jalota and Keeran Eshwarlall, fingers crossed, live in concert in South Africa. That's the one collaboration I'm looking forward to. Other collaborations I have done already. I've worked with the Sipo Hot Sticks Mabuse. I worked with a band called the Liberation Project that was headed by Dan Chiboli and Neil Solomon. Neil Solomon is uh, a music director who um, has done quite a few movie backtracks, sort of soundtracks for movies, the kind of stuff that you hear in the background of movies. One of his famous works was Jock of the Bushveld. He was a music director, and you will hear his music on that. So I worked with Neil Solomon, Dan Shiboli, and we worked on a band called the Liberation Project. I've composed about 6 items for them, uh, instrumental items that are now featured on an international album that was finally edited and mixed by Pink Floyd at his studio. So 145 musicians played uh, on that album from around the world. So it was done over 6 different cities. So stuff was done here and sent digitally over to Italy and then to Cuba, to uh, Canada, to United States, and eventually to Pink Floyd studio in UK. And it was mixed there and released as a three CD album internationally. It's world music, so that's why nobody here would have heard about it. So quite a lot has happened. So that's where we are with collaborations.
Finally, for aspiring singers watching this live, what is one honest lesson you've learned the hard way that they should know early on?
That is a very nice question. That is a very relevant question to my situation as well. I've I've worked hard over the last 35 years to get to where I am. Uh, and the number one driving factor is never giving up. I know it sounds like a cliche, but remember, if you're carrying a load already, and if you are not schooled, if you don't have a proper schooling, you don't have proper guidance, you're already carrying a load because this ton of bricks that are on you. You have to pick each one out as you go along. You got to pick out the rubble from the good bricks that you can use to build your foundation on. So this load can only lighten and enlighten. So moving from picking out all the rubbish and keeping the useful stuff can only take time. So when you along that journey, you're going to get people who are going to still constantly throw rubbish on top of your load and make your load heavier and stifle you and push you down. And I've actually had that happen when I was learning to play guitar. I went to one of my uh, neighbors, not far from where I was living at the time, and I said to him, "Can you teach me a chord?" And he said to me, "This is not for you. You should not pursue this because you will never amount to anything in music." Now, when an adult tells a 16-year-old child who's asking you to help them, help me, and you say no, uh, well, it's their karma because I firmly believe how people treat you is their karma and how you react is yours.
Mm,
So my reaction was fine, no problem. You say I won't amount to anything. That's fine, no problem. I didn't let it shoot me down. I never let that add to the load of rubbish on top of me. In fact, I've taken that clump of clay he threw at me and made a brick out of it, you know, and used that brick to form a part of the foundation for me. So that one day, when this wall is built and this tower is built, when I'm standing on the top of this tower, having achieved what I've achieved in the last 35 years, I can look down and say, this is the brick that inspired me. Instead of taking the criticism from what he said and the negativity of what he said, I used it to build this foundation that helped me build this tower. So, most important thing for musicians, never give up. Even if a person says to you, this is not for you, give it up, or you're useless and you're terrible at this, and you should not, don't ever listen to it. Follow your heart, whatever is in your heart, go with that. Your gut is never wrong. If you
mm.
want to succeed in any field in life, whether it's music or commerce or education or whatever it is, as long as you have the drive for it, it's like you take how people say you take one step towards God, God will take 10 steps towards you. So if you choose that destiny, you take a step towards it, that destiny will take 10 steps towards you. So the harder you work, better it will be for you. And eventually everything that you want will work out for you the way you want it.
Awesome. Do you mind doing a tiny item before we end the chat?
Yeah, no problem. No problem.
Sure.
What would you like to listen to? Bhajan, Ghazal,
A ghazal.
Ghazal. Okay. This is a
Okay.
popular Ghazal by Papa Judas.
Okay.
चांदी जैसा रंग है तेरा सोने जैसे बाल एक तू ही धनवान है गोरी बाकी सब कंगाल चांदी जैसा रंग है तेरा सोने जैसे बाल एक तू ही धनवान है गोरी बाकी सब कंगाल जिस रास्ते से तुम गुजरे वो से भर जाए तेरे प्यार की कहानी आज सुनते भाग चला जो पत्थर छुए वही रात हो जाए वो जिसको मिल जाए वो जिसको मिल जाए वो जाए माला
Beautiful, man. Thanks so much
Thank
for
you.
your time, Kieran. It was really a pleasure to have you, and I hope to catch up with you again in the future.
Thank you very much. And thanks for having me on board. And thanks to everybody that interacted and asked questions. I hope I was able to answer all of them for you. And really looking forward to doing something like this again soon.
Take care and God bless.
Thank you. Namaste.